We're back with Barry Melrose at Fleming's, where he's being honored today.
Good steaks here.
As a legend. Are you going to eat, or you just get honored and you leave?
No. If you get honored, you got to stay and eat a steak.
You're going to stay and eat a steak.
Yeah.
I'll sit and eat a steak with you.
Anytime in the Fleming's, I eat a steak.
So in the last segment, we talked about coming here and coaching. What's it like coaching Wayne Gretzky? I think I remember reading that you were actually nervous to come down and coach a legend like that because you don't want to mess it up.
Well, I played against Gretz, and I probably shook hands with him once before in the WHA. But I didn't know him at all. Just like the other guys, you see him on the commercials and playing and stuff. But I never really knew him at all. And I realized that's one guy I had to get in my side. The first player I called and the first guy I met was Wayne. And we did it. I got hired the day of one of the major earthquakes here in LA. So I'm a farm boy sitting on the 12th floor of the Marriott, and I'm watching the water in the swimming pool go from one end to the other. And then I found out later that the worst place to be is near a window in a hotel.
Right.
So I didn't know much about earthquakes, but I met Gretz that day, and it was funny. We met at a hotel, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in the lobby waiting for him because I'm always early for everything. And this minivan pulls in with a bunch of kids in it. And all of a sudden, Gretz gets out. And Janet was driving the minivan. Gretz is in there. 3 or 4 of the kids are in there. I think Gretz had 3 kids in, maybe 4. So that was my first meeting with Gretz, as he came in a minivan. Not a limo, not a stretch.
Amazing.
But a minivan. And we talked like for 2 hours. Matter of fact, Janet came back. And she had to sit out in the parking lot with the kids for about a half an hour for us to finish. And I talked about how I wanted the team to play. And Gretz said, yeah, that's how I want to play. That's how I think this team can play. And we talked about things like that. And from that moment on, I knew I had a great guy to coach. And he never let me down. He was a pleasure to coach. He was loved to practice. And people they don't realize this, but Gretz always had a roommate. They think, well, Wayne Gretzky, the greatest player ever, he always had a single room. Gretz always had a roommate. It was Tony Granato. And, he was just one of the guys. He was the happiest when he was in the dressing room, talking with the guys, joking with the guys, being on the ice in practice, when he could be himself. And I coached him for 3 years. Not once did he ever ask to miss practice or leave early or something for a commercial. And you know how many commercials Gretz was doing in those days. So
every 10 minutes he had a commercial.
Like it.
You know the amazing thing, because I got to know Gretzky through the Canadian connection to, if you recall, because I used to hang out that time with David Foster and Alan Take, all the buddies. So I got to know Gretzky, who was just a regular guy. But I remember taking my son down to meet him under the venue after the game. And all the guys would come out, and it looked like it was Night of the Living Dead. They'd all have noses sideways, teeth missing, an eye hanging out. And then Gretzky looked like he slept in. There was no injury. They kept him pretty protected, didn't they?
Well, you keep him protected, but he was also smarter than everybody else. He never put himself in a position to get like that. I only saw Gretz get hit twice hard. One was in the Olympics by Suter, and the other was by a young kid, Billy McCreary, and both Gretz and him were looking the wrong way, and they ran into each other, and Billy was bigger than Gretz. But that's only 2 times I've ever seen Gretz hit hard. He was just on a different wavelength than everybody else. He played the game at a different speed than everybody else, and he was never in a situation to get drilled or punished the way other guys are.
When you're a coach, it's almost like my boss in radio. He's really good at guiding me because he knows my deficits and he knows my strengths. And if you try and beat up somebody for their deficits instead of telling them how to manipulate them so they can use their strengths, it really is a negative. Do you do that with players where you see guys' deficits and you don't beat them up for that? You try and take advantage of the skill set that they have?
No, I was always, just talking about Gretz, as a coach, I felt with him, my job was to make sure he was on the ice in every situation he should have been on the ice. When the game mattered, he should be on the ice. If I'm going to win or lose, I'm going to have Wayne Gretzky on the ice, and that was always my thinking. So, but with other guys, coaches, I was always a big believer. I'd rather show somebody doing something right once than showing them doing it wrong 10 times. And I always felt that the players got more out of that too. You have to show negative stuff once in a while. But most of the stuff you show on tape is positive, and I think most coaches are like that. Talking
to Barry Melrose, you don't get a lot of time for training. You do that preseason, but during the season, there's hardly any time for training because you're there playing and healing and playing and healing. It's a brutal schedule, and I think people don't understand too that the traveling is brutal.
Well, especially on the West Coast. The East Coast has such a advantage as far as travel is concerned. They're always in their bed at night, whereas the West, you're on two-week road trips. Right. Much tougher in the West, and now there's many more teams in the West than there were in '93. But they're still a very, very tough grind. yeah, in the summer you're basically trying to build up muscle mass and weight and stuff, and almost like a bear sleeping in the wintertime. You're just hoping that muscle and weight will carry you over until spring, or until the playoffs in the springtime. But it is hard, and injuries are part of hockey. You got to play hurt, because if you don't play hurt in hockey, you'll never play, because you're always hurt. And but again, it's training in the wintertime is basically you're just trying to keep your weight up and just trying to maintain everything you got for that final push to make.
Before
the
we go, you're a tough guy. You've done it all. But you got to be also a psychologist, because these guys are going through divorces and problems and issues. How much of that? Yeah, and you're smiling. I got you smiling there. Is that every day, all day?
Well, actually, it was funny. One of the guys that I got to know and work with was Tony Robbins. I always, when I was a young kid coaching in junior and stuff, when I become an NHL coach, I'm going to meet Tony Robbins, and that was one of my goals, and I did it. And yeah, you got issues with personal affairs. You got issues with family. Say your father's sick. Say your mother's sick. Things like that. Your kids are sick. The schools aren't right, and people don't realize that you're moving, and even when you're there, you're not there. My wife, we've been married 38 years, and she always said the NHL stood for no home life, and there's a little bit of truth to that. And,
it is tough. I think people don't get to see that part of it.
They don't realize that travel's hard, and even in my job with ESPN, people say, well, it's such a great job, and it is, but it's hard. Like, I travel every week to get there, and that's the hardest part about everything is travel.
But you're holding well together. You're a handsome and powerful man. Look at you.
Oh, that's a nice thing that you say it. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for coming. Barry Melrose, congratulations on the Legends Lunch. I'll sit down and break some bread with you in a little bit.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It's very cool. And congratulations on the ESPN job and the coaching job and the playing career. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Talk Radio 790 KBC.